After her husband's sudden death, Vanessa Thompson felt as though the world had shifted beneath her feet. She had been married for 10 years, sharing every dream and plan with the man she loved, only to be left alone with their 2 young children. But the blow of his death was compounded by the bitter irony of her inheritance. The once grand family estate, now decrepit and forgotten, had been bequeathed to her and her little ones. Her in-laws, who had always looked down on Vanessa, had found endless amusement in the situation. When the lawyer handed over the keys, they had laughed openly, a cruel and cutting laughter that echoed in the vast, empty halls. "Really, Vanessa? This? You'll be lucky if it's worth a dime," her late husband's sister said, folding her designer coat around her arms and smirking with disdain. The words sliced through Vanessa, but she did not respond. She had learned long ago that dignity and determination mattered far more than the opinions of the envious. The mansion itself was a skeleton of its former glory. The heavy front doors groaned as Vanessa pushed them open, revealing a grand foyer coated in layers of dust. Broken chandeliers dangled precariously, the mirrors on the walls were cracked, and the floorboards creaked with every tentative step. The scent of mildew and age filled the air, but Vanessa was undeterred. Her children, little Amaya and Jaden, clung to her hands. Amaya, just 6, tilted her head as she took in the towering ceilings and the peeling wallpaper. "Mommy, is this really where we'll live?" she asked in a small, nervous voice. "Yes, sweetie," Vanessa said, kneeling to pull them close. "It may look a little scary now, but we'll make it our home. Together." Over the next few days, Vanessa roamed every corridor and chamber. She examined the obvious decay, but she also noticed the hidden details: a loose floorboard here, a warped cabinet there, a series of small, forgotten rooms that no one had entered in years. She had always believed that true value often lay hidden, waiting for someone patient and brave enough to uncover it. The children began to explore too. Jaden, 8, found old books and broken toys, imagining stories of the past. Amaya discovered faded portraits of ancestors, her tiny fingers tracing the outlines of faces that seemed to watch them silently. Vanessa encouraged their curiosity, knowing that the mansion's forgotten corners held the promise of adventure, and maybe more than just memories. One evening, as the children played in the main drawing room, Vanessa's gaze fell on a small, inconspicuous door behind a tattered curtain. It was barely noticeable, tucked away in a corner that had long been ignored. Her heart skipped a beat. Something about it felt deliberate, as though it had been placed there to be found only by someone who cared enough to look. With a sense of both nervousness and excitement, Vanessa pushed the door open and found a narrow spiral staircase leading into darkness. The air was thick and musty, and she could hear the faint echo of her own breathing. Each step downward creaked under her weight, but she pressed on, compelled by an intuition she couldn't explain. At the bottom, she discovered a reinforced steel door. It looked out of place, meticulously maintained while the rest of the mansion fell to ruin. Vanessa's hands trembled as she tried the lock, covered in dust but still intact. Something told her that this door was the key to a secret her late husband had hidden, a secret so well protected that even the most prying eyes would have never discovered it. When she finally pushed the steel door open, the sight inside made her gasp. There, in the dim light, were stacks of cash, gold bars, and priceless jewelry. Wealth beyond imagination, hidden carefully and silently for years. Vanessa sank to the floor, overwhelmed with shock and gratitude. Her children ran to her side, sensing the gravity of the moment. "Mommy, what is it?" Jaden asked, eyes wide. Vanessa hugged them tightly. This changes everything," she whispered. "We're going to be okay. Truly okay." For the first time since her husband's death, a smile broke across her face. The mansion, which had seemed like a cruel joke from her family, had become a treasure trove that would secure their future. The laughter of the people who had doubted her was silenced in her mind, replaced with the quiet, unstoppable power of resilience and determination. Vanessa realized that this hidden fortune was more than money. It was a testament to foresight, patience, and hope. And as she held her children close, she knew that their lives were about to change forever. In the days that followed, Vanessa Thompson could hardly sleep. The discovery of the hidden fortune in the ruined mansion had shifted everything. She felt an energy she hadn't experienced since her husband had been alive, a sense of hope, power, and possibility. She knew that the $150 million she had uncovered wasn't just money. It was freedom, security, and a chance to rebuild her life for herself and her two young children, Amaya and Jaden. She began planning immediately. First, she needed to stabilize their living situation. The mansion, while grand, was dangerous in many places. Floorboards were weak, ceilings threatened to collapse, and the electrical system was outdated and hazardous. Vanessa hired a discreet, trusted team of contractors and specialists, careful not to attract attention. She wanted the transformation to be quiet, controlled, and purposeful. Meanwhile, her children adapted in their own way. Amaya found a nook in the library where the light fell just right to read her picture books, while Jaden wandered the attic, imagining himself as an explorer discovering long-lost treasures. Vanessa encouraged their imagination, knowing that the mansion's forgotten spaces could be more than just rooms. They could be stages for creativity, learning, and adventure. While overseeing renovations, Vanessa began making financial plans. She quietly liquidated a portion of the hidden assets, investing in a combination of secure holdings and philanthropic projects. She wanted the money to serve not only her family, but also the community that had once looked down on her. It became clear that her late husband had been a man of foresight, someone who had hidden not only wealth, but also opportunities for the right person to seize. One afternoon, as Vanessa sat in the main study reviewing plans, her phone rang. It was her late husband's sister, calling in what she thought was triumph. "Vanessa," she said, her tone dripping with false cheer. "Have you made any progress in that dilapidated mansion? Or are you still living in dust and shadows?" Vanessa smiled, a quiet, knowing smile. "Actually," she replied, keeping her voice calm and collected, "we're making quite a bit of progress. Amaya just finished her first painting in the new studio, and Jaden has organized the attic like a real explorer's headquarters." There was a pause on the other end. "Oh, well, I suppose that's good for you," her sister stammered, her confidence faltering. Vanessa didn't reveal the full truth. Not yet. She wanted to see the reaction when the world learned how far she had risen from the ashes of both her loss and her in-laws' mockery. Days turned into weeks, and the mansion began to transform. Crumbling walls were repaired, paint refreshed every corner, and modern safety systems replaced the dangerous old wiring. The once empty rooms were filled with life, laughter, and the energy of possibility. Vanessa hired tutors and activity coaches for Amaya and Jaden, ensuring they could continue their education and growth while the mansion became a safe and inspiring place. Yet the true transformation was not only physical. Vanessa herself grew in confidence, realizing her ability to handle challenges with grace and intelligence. She met with financial advisors, legal experts, and even consultants for philanthropic projects. She became a woman of vision, driven not by revenge but by purpose. Every decision she made was deliberate, aimed at building a future her children would be proud of. One evening, Vanessa gathered her children in the restored library. Sunlight streamed through the newly installed windows, dust particles dancing like tiny stars. "Do you see, my loves?" she said, looking at Amaya and Jaden. "This mansion, it was never ruined. It was waiting for us to turn it into something wonderful." Amaya's eyes sparkled. "Mommy, it's like magic," she exclaimed, hugging Vanessa tightly. Jaden nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah, it's like we found treasure." Vanessa hugged them both, her heart full. She realized that her husband's foresight, her own determination, and their shared courage had created not just a home, but a life of opportunity, learning, and love. Word began to leak slowly through the town about Vanessa's quiet progress. People who had laughed at her, who had mocked her children, began to whisper. Some came to visit, curious to see how the once-ruined mansion had been revived. Vanessa greeted everyone with calm dignity, never flaunting the wealth, but letting the transformation speak for itself. By the end of the month, the mansion had become a symbol of resilience. Not because of the money it contained, but because of the way one determined woman and her children had breathed life back into its walls. Every corner told a story, every restored room a testament to patience, intelligence, and hope. And deep within Vanessa, she knew that this was just the beginning. The $150 million had opened doors, but it was her heart, mind, and unwavering spirit that would ensure the family's true wealth would last forever. By the time the mansion was fully restored, Vanessa Thompson and her children had become the embodiment of quiet strength and determination. News of the transformation spread throughout the community, not through grand announcements or social media posts, but through whispers and curiosity. People were astonished at how a once ruined estate had become a vibrant, thriving home filled with light, laughter, and life. Her late husband's relatives, those who had mocked her and her children, were the first to realize the truth. They arrived one afternoon, expecting a scene of decay and despair. Instead, they found a family who had turned adversity into opportunity. The mansion gleamed, every detail meticulously restored. The gardens flourished, the children ran through rooms full of sunlight and learning, and Vanessa herself stood tall, radiant with confidence. Vanessa greeted them calmly, her smile serene but knowing. "Welcome," she said simply. "Please, take a look around." Her sister-in-law's jaw dropped. How did you do all this?" she stammered. "This mansion, it's incredible." Vanessa led them through the house, showing the restored rooms, the children's study areas, and the hidden vault that had held the family fortune. She did not boast, but the evidence spoke for itself. The $150 million, carefully managed and partially invested, had allowed her to not only rebuild the mansion, but also create a life of stability, education, and opportunity for her children. "Your late husband, he really did leave something for you," her sister-in-law whispered, a mix of admiration and disbelief in her voice. Vanessa nodded. "He did, and I have ensured that this gift will continue to benefit my family, not just for comfort, but for growth, learning, and hope." It wasn't just the money or the restored estate that amazed people. It was the transformation of Vanessa herself. She had moved from grief and uncertainty to strength and inspiration. She had shown her children that resilience, intelligence, and courage could overcome any obstacle. Amaya and Jaden, now thriving in their studies and personal growth, were living proof of her dedication. Vanessa also extended her vision beyond her home. She began small philanthropic projects, supporting children in need, mentoring young women, and contributing to community initiatives. Her late husband's fortune had been hidden, but she used it to illuminate lives far beyond the walls of the mansion. Every act was a reminder that wealth, when guided by purpose and compassion, could create lasting change. Months later, Vanessa received a letter from her husband's former business partners, expressing regret for doubting her and offering their admiration for her achievements. The laughter and scorn of the past had been replaced with respect, though Vanessa never sought it. She knew that true recognition came not from others' opinions, but from the impact one leaves behind. One quiet evening, Vanessa sat in the study, watching Amaya paint and Jaden organize a small experiment in the newly converted science room. She reflected on the journey, the disbelief, the mockery, the hidden fortune, and the tireless effort that had turned everything around. The mansion had been a ruin, but through patience, courage, and vision, it had become a symbol of possibility. Her children ran to her, laughing and full of energy. "Mommy, we love it here," Amaya exclaimed, holding up her latest painting. "Yes, Mom," Jaden added. "This is the best home ever." Vanessa hugged them tightly, feeling an overwhelming sense of peace and pride. "And it's just the beginning," she whispered. "We have everything we need to build a life full of hope, learning, and joy." In the end, the ruined mansion that had once been a source of ridicule had become the foundation of a new legacy. Vanessa's determination, vision, and unwavering love for her children had turned mockery into admiration, despair into opportunity, and an empty inheritance into a fortune of unimaginable value, both in wealth and in the bonds of family. And as the sun set over the restored estate, casting golden light through the windows, Vanessa knew that no laughter, no doubt, and no obstacle could ever dim the brilliance of a heart determined to rise.